6 at Bloemfontein. Finally not a mudder. Feels like we've been a while since we weren't riding in the rain, but track looks really good. A little bit of red velvet cake for practice. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good day. Coming off of 3 weeks in Europe, so yeah, racing every weekend in the sand. I think I got good preparation. I had a huge crash last weekend at a German championship round, so my body's a bit banged up, but yeah, luckily I hit my head, so there's not much there. But otherwise, I think it'll be a good day and just take what it comes.
Let's kick things off and start our review. The day was going to be an absolute banger. Bloemfontein, so often a rider favorite, and the BORC crew up there did a banger job getting things prepped in the early part of the winter. A lot of part-time racers came back because this is one of the tracks to race on the 2025 championship. We'll start things out with our review of the MX High Schools Heat number 1 coming in, where all the big swingers were lined up and ready to rock and roll. The championship was forming up nicely in 2025. Off the gate, the usual suspects hitting the clear air. Cruz Martin on the Yami getting the job done. And Tristan Duro has definitely been working on his whole shot prowess as well. Those two ran the numbers early on with the chasing pack headed up by Riley Rocha, Cox and Fenter. Lap number 1 though was going to be an interesting one, as Martin and Duro started to stretch their legs in the clear air and loved the conditions out there on the course. There was some fate coming around the corner that would find them. 2 lines became 1. 2 riders went down. That was from position 1 and 2. So a dramatic moment to start out the day in the high schools. And that meant that Rocha was going to take over the lead with Cox and Fenter doing the chase down. The Yami boys were in good shape as well, as Henley and Johnson took up the mantle to try and run numbers and chase their way up into that magical top 5. They had Barrington and Smith just up the road from them. Didn't take Cox long to take a stranglehold on the race though, with Rocha trying to do what he could to hold off Fenter. The comeback race though was what was going to be watched, as Duro and Martin would be working hard to try and grab those valuable points and bring back the numbers. They didn't want to take too many losses here in heat number 1. Cox was all kinds of style up there as he ran out front. It was Rocha, Fenter, and the rest of the boys doing the job. Second place started to become a bit of a fight, but no problems in the rear view mirrors for Cox. Mr. 125 himself dominated heat number 1. That would have buoyed him up as well. He was in good spirits going forward into the rest of the day's big show. Heat number 2, and everyone was on the comeback trail. A lot of riders lost a lot of points coming out of that first heat at Bloemfontein, and a few more riders would have to do the big numbers. It was almost a carbon copy of the whole shot in heat number 1 and heat number 2, where Duro and Cruz were out there running the numbers. Duro this time around extremely strong. It was Cruz that was in trouble, with Trey Cox getting a much better gate this time around, and the pass for second spot was inevitable. Cox was on an absolute burner after making light work of Cruz Martin. He quickly set to work on Tristan Duro, and it seemed like a formality. Cox was just on another level here at Bloemfontein. He left the chasing pack made up of the Yami boys and Fenter, as well as Barrington Smith. Remember, these guys are working super hard to get those points on the plate. Henley had a much better gate this time around. Tristan Duro wasn't giving up without a fight though. Cruz Martin seemed to be comfortable in the number 3 spot, but Henley was on an absolute ripper this time around. But the king of the high schools in 2025 is definitely Cox, as he ran the numbers. He went 1 for 1 on the day to take the overall, ahead of Tristan Duro, who did a good fight back to get second place ahead of Barrington Smith. Consistency paying the bills. Let's focus in on the MX2s now. MX2s in 2025, the story of the season has been the weapon that is Luke Grundy on an absolute burner. And so often getting that cheese and getting the whole shot and being able to control the race from there on out. Would he get it this time around at Bloemfontein? The gate drop would tell us the story. It was Grundy that once again got the magic hook off the gate, but a massive story as well with Tristan Duro getting an incredible run around the outside with Van Veek and Cox in close attendance. Coming through the pack though would be Cam Duro and normally an incredibly strong starter, Proctor. Those guys would have to plow the field to get up and try and find those big numbers in the championship. Van Veek, very strong at this track though. He was running good numbers in the early stages with the number 2. But in the background, just after the Motor X arch, Cam Duro started to come to life, got himself through into the number 3 spot, and he brought Proctor along for the ride. Tristan Duro was going to be in that elbows up fight with himself and Cox. That was the early drama, with Cox looking like the slightly stronger rider. Out front though, Cam Duro had made light work of Van Veek and was now getting up onto the back wheel of his stablemate and teammate, Grundy. Grundy didn't seem to have an answer for the champ as Duro ran the numbers. It looked like we were starting to see a little bit of late race fade coming in for Grundy though, as Van Veek charged up and got onto the back wheel and would eventually make the pass as well. But all eyes were on the number 1 plate, who's had an up and down season, but starts to turn things around here at Bloemfontein. Gate drop for heat number 2 in the MX2s. And again, all eyes would be to see if Grundy could go 2 for 2. He couldn't this time around. It was Duro that went up the road and saw clear air as a whole ton of riders, something like 7 riders going down off the outside of turn number 1. So there would be a big change up in the championships to see who was going to be able to get up and fight back the fastest. Duro ran. Grundy in a number 2 spot. Van Veek got into that 3rd place battle with Cox early on, with Proctor, Duro battling for a number 5. Marriott came into the mix there as well. And that was going to be an interesting story to see who was going to hang on to the cheese and get the big numbers coming out of Bloemfontein. A big fight back for Mark Carty. He'd been gone down in turn number 1, and he was going to have to do a massive Ironman fight back. He would eventually get rewarded with a top 10 place, but a tough day at the office for him, for sure. Cox was on an absolute rip though in heat number 2. Does often come to life in heat number 2 with MX2s. Duro was out front, but he wasn't checking out like he did in the early part of the season, with all the riders finding good hook and grooves and lines in heat number 2. Duro would run away with it, but the big story of the day was a massive fight back for Cox to eventually get himself up to 2nd. Duro walked away with 1-1, giving him the overall for the day. Van Veek in 2nd, and Cox a solid number 3. That helps him out in his championship. Let's chat to a couple of the lads after the race.
Yeah, so tell us, 125 trail, give us a recap there.
Yeah, round 6 done here at Bloemfontein. I have to say, I've always loved this track since 2019, my first ever podium on a 65 here, and then today was actually a dream day. 125s qualified P1, Moto 1 P1, Moto 2 had a huge battle with Tristan for about 4 laps, and then managed to pass him and just ride my own race a little bit and pulled away a bit, and yeah, 1-1 for the day. Stayed in my championship lead, so I couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, MX2 had a really solid day. In qualifying, managed to pull off the fastest lap, last lap, which I was stoked about. Moto 1 had an alright start, had to come through the pack a little bit, but made some good passes, managed to get up to 2nd, then had to work on Luke a little bit, managed to go around his outside, and then once I got to the lead, I got a bit of a gap, managed to pull away. But the boys behind were riding really good today. There was a big battle, so I had to stay on it the whole moto. Moto 2 decided to finally pull a whole shot. Then yeah, rode the race in front, but yeah, I had to stay on it again the whole moto. The guys behind have really upped their level now, and the class is starting to get stacked. And yeah, I was really impressed with the guys behind. They had some really good battles and kept me honest all day.
Awesome, man. And where to next though?
So fly back to America on Monday, got Ironman in 2 weekends time, finally get an off weekend this weekend, and then Ironman Unadilla, Budds Creek, and I'll be back for Teza.
Awesome, man. Yeah. See you at round 7, my bro.
Yeah, see you at round 7.